What's up, Summoners? King Blair here. With buffs coming shortly to Cerise, Sage Ball, and Pearl Horizon, I wanted to talk about how you could counter Control. Especially because what if I told you Control is really not that scary, and there are several units, including a few free-to-play units and methods, that you can build right now to win you Control matchups that absolutely destroy Control. So we'll be getting into those counters and how you can counter this playstyle. And if you like the video and want to see more content like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server for some big brain talks. We're doing amazing on all of them. We keep the channel growing. We just hit 3K. Let's keep moving forward. 5K will be a special reveal, so make sure you smash that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. All right, enough about that. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. So one of the things that a lot of people don't like is Control, right? It's not fun playing against Control. You don't feel like you actually get to play. You feel like you can go get a cup of coffee, come back, and they're probably still playing and you still haven't taken a turn, right? So they definitely is a very frustrating playstyle to play against, but it can never be the most OP broken team composition like Tank has done in the past, or how Cleave has done in the past. Why? Because there are so many built-in counters to Control in the game, not including just the fact that there's 15% effect resistance. And we'll discuss all these different things. So how the video will be split up into the different sections. It will be first, to beat your opponent, you have to understand your opponent. So we're going to be talking about how Control functions and what they need to work. So we'll talk about that first. Then we'll move forward to some of the key ways that you can beat them. These key ways being immunity and cleansing, built-in resistance, adding RNG, and of course the one that a lot of people hate to do, outspeeding the opponent, although this one may not be as strong in the future. So we'll talk about those, and you can skip around the video to see what style you think will work best for you. But enough of that, let's get to the sections. So before we talk about how we can counter Control, we must first talk about what the key players are in the Control team. So I have made an in-depth guide on Control teams and kind of their sample draft. It's a little bit outdated now because Sage Ball will be going a lot higher, and Cerise, she's still a team core, so it kind of stays the same. So make sure to check out the video if you want to see kind of like the basics of Control. But here we'll give a quick overview, and I'll be using kind of this chart to help you out. So we see there we have the main Control units, and then we have some damage options that they have and some other side options that they have as well. So biggest thing for a Control team is going to be they want to lock you down and stop you from getting your turn and debuff you enough that you can't take your turns, you can't retaliate, and it's just hard for you to beat the opponent because you can't move or you're doing no damage, right? So some key units that they are using, a very popular one is going to be Benevolent Roman. He's able to strip your buffs, silence you for 2 turns, which doesn't allow you to retaliate, and can also push your team back, stun, using Abyssal Crown. So the Abyssal Crown, really big one because you can stun very often with the S1 into S2, and it's a pretty low cooldown, so he's able to silence you over and over again, paired with some other units. We talked about the top 5 Control units earlier the previous week. So some other units you can start thinking about are kind of like Ambitious Tywin, who's able to continuously cycle his S3, stunning you and decreasing your speed, making you not be able to take your turn. And of course, units like Dizzy, who honestly I really underestimated in that RTA Control playstyle intro. But Dizzy, one of the best Control units because of Lelo Violin. She's able to remove buffs, she's able to extend the debuffs. For example, that Ray Silence, she can extend it for an extra turn, she can slow you down, apply all these nasty debuffs, and essentially make it so you can't take a turn. An important thing to know is that Control is not just trying to apply debuff, they're also trying to kill you, right? They can't win by just applying debuffs, so they are going to have to bring some damage dealers. Some of these damage dealers include people like Tenebria, who's able to do high damage as well as Control, and other units such as Arbiter Vildred, or more notably for Control teams, Tempest Surin. So Tempest Surin fills this role very nicely because she's able to do a very strong AoE attack, able to silence you, apply debuffs, and just be really annoying and hard to take down, hard to target. And with all the debuffs added together, you're not really going to be killing this T-Surin anytime soon. So that's the 2 aspects of a Control team. The control aspect and then the kill you aspect, right? So it's split off into those 2 sections. And you need to be able to counter both, but primarily the control portion, because the damage dealers are typically pretty squishy, right? Tempesturin will get one shot decently easy. Broman will get one shot decently easy. The only exception of this is going to be someone like Ambitious Tywin, who's a little bit tankier. So the way you beat control is by stopping the debuffs or cleansing those debuffs off, which takes away their ability to stop you from retaliating, and then you retaliate with your own combo. So that's the idea you want to do, which does mean you will have to put at least 2 counters that can hard counter control. And now let's get into the counters that you can start building right now. So the first way that we're going to be dealing with control teams is going to be the recommended way and one of the most consistent ways, and also one of the ways that everyone should have access to, which is going to be high effect resistance unit along with cleanses. There are millions of units that achieve this, but some baseline things you should know. When we're talking high effect resistance, we're talking like 200 effect resistance, right? So if you didn't know, the effectiveness effect resistance system is completely complicated. I have also made a video, so I will link it in the description, or you can ask me for it if you want to see the effectiveness system, how it works. But essentially 200 effect resistance plus is what you want to have for these cleanse high effect resistance unit, right? And you may be wondering, that sounds insane. How do you achieve that? Rings have effect resistance main stat, which gives you 65% effect resistance, and there's the effect resistance set, which gives you another 20%, and then there's units that have high effect resistance. Those are already 100 plus effect resistance just from one ring, the set, and the base stats of the unit, right? So there's a lot of ways you can get effect resistance, and it's one of those things that everyone rolls into, right? But that's some of the baseline. I know it sounds hard, but just bear with me. The main unit you're going to be using, and no one should not have this unit built. If you don't have this unit built and you're losing to control, that's on you, bro. Like, if you're losing to control because you don't have this unit built, that's mostly on you, because this is a free-to-play unit that is extremely easy to have a high effect resistance. I have seen Angelic Montmorency's have 300 effect resistance. It's possible to easily get them to 200, and they deal with control teams extremely well. Why? They deal with the 2 aspects of control teams. They deal with the control and they deal with the damage. She's able to, every 2 turns, cleanse a debuff from your party as well as heal, and this with the tree can also cleanse 2 debuffs. So already, really, really solid S2, healing and cleansing, right? Amazing. The S3, again, 2 debuffs. This one's 1 target, but it also gives them immunity, making follow-up CC and follow-up debuffs a lot harder to land on that particular unit, making it a lot harder. She gives herself Camarines, and she's able to S2 again, essentially taking off all the cleanse all the debuffs off. The other thing is she's dealing with the damage portion because of all the healing. So again, build your Angelic Montmorency's. If you don't have, she's extremely easy to get high effect resistance. Her tree just gives her like 50 effect resistance or something crazy like that, right? So it's like she basically already built herself for you, right? So build your Angelic Montmorency. She's also amazing for PvP and PvE, right? So just build her. You won't regret it. There are some other free-to-play options like Acades, who's another really, really good one. Now, for her, you don't have to actually give her 200 effect resistance, because her exclusive equipment actually gives her effect resistance from the tree. Like gives her an effect resistance buff. So that's one way to do it. But she's really, really good at dealing with debuffs. And also, Magic Scholar Doors, I almost said Magic School Doors, does okay against control. Not as well as Montmorency. But let's say you're like, okay, you gave me some free-to-play options. What are the super spicy cleanse options? So the 2 that I'm going to recommend, and the one that I'm going to recommend right now if you have them, is going to be Ray. Y'all, Ray is going to have one of the best matchups against Cerise and all these different control teams. Why? He inherently... Oh, whoa, that's kind of a weird glitch. I don't know why it's showing those paws there. But he inherently starts with 30% effect resistance. Right? That's extremely high. You give him an artifact like Shumata Staff, that's another 20% effect resistance, right? And then you give him the ring that gives 65, that's already 115 effect resistance. That's a lot of effect resistance. You're starting with 115, and the rest you can get from substats, right? And he has very good base speed, allowing you to build him pretty fast. So why am I telling you to build him? He's able to, again, cleanse all the debuffs and give immunity, which shuts out Cerise so hard, because if Cerise tries to S2 you and lands the slow, which she most likely won't because your Ray will have more effect resistance, you're able to come in, cleanse all the debuffs that they're going to do on you, and then set up immunity, making control follow-up extremely hard to deal with. right? The other one is also going to be DJ Basar. Similar idea as Ray. He doesn't have the same starting effect resistance that Ray does, but he does get it from his self-imprint. So if you have a lot of Basars, same idea, but he also gives up opportunity to push your team up and make up for the slow debuff that Cerise would have applied, right? So very, very powerful stuff there. So those two, really, really solid. Other units are also Destina. I use her occasionally because the S1 is really, really nice. And also Elena being a really, really freaking good one as well. Why? Her S1 Soul Burn dispels all debuffs. Her regular S1 every turn dispels 2 debuffs. Her S3 gives increased effect resistance, making debuffs harder to land for your opponents. So much good stuff. So much good stuff there. And there's even other aspects to this cleansing, this cleanse. That is going to be things like Stella Harpa, which I love to use on Destina. It's not a once per turn, so as long as they're hitting you, there's a chance that you will be dispelling a debuff from the ally. This with Destina is just disgusting, because if Destina counterattacks, she cleanses another debuff, and it's just like, it makes the opponent not want to hit your Destina at all, and then Destina can just like get lucky cleanse, and then boom, you're back to normal, right? So there's a lot of different ways. There are some other units that I'm not talking about that don't fall into this high effect resistance category, and they'll come in later to the extra RNG, and we'll talk about why they're good. And those type of units are units like Lilius. Why units like Lilius? Because they also have party cleanse. All you have to remember is for her, instead of high effect resistance, you want to give her immunity, right? So again, that's the main way you're going to be doing it. And now let's look at some of the other methods you can also include as well as your cleanser to counter control. So the next method we're going to be talking about is going to be immunity. Whether you get that from the set for that critical turn 1, or a unit that can apply immunity later in the fight. So why? How does it function? So there's two aspects of it and why it's important. The first aspect is it forces them to bring a stripper. If they don't bring a stripper and you have an immunity set, and that's something that a lot of people ask me, why immunity set when I can get crit or health? Well, if you give immunity to critical units and they don't bring a stripper, you're guaranteed that turn 1 with that unit unless they one-shot it. So units like Lilius, where it's not realistic for you to get high effect resistance, they can get access to like critical cleanse against control teams, because if they don't bring a stripper and they bring a Dizzy, now they're forced to wait a turn before they can use their Dizzy, and it gives you a chance to deal with their team because they didn't bring a stripper. So it really punishes that, and it allows those units to get that critical turn 1. But the other aspect of it is the RNG aspect of immunity against control turn 1, and then down the line how it just stops it if they don't have any strippers. So now let's go to the RNG aspect of it, and then we'll talk about the immunity setters, which is the long term. So first, the turn 1 RNG aspect. The best way to look at this is going to be through units like Broman and F-Clurry, right? So you're like, okay, why are you mentioning those units? Those units strip, so what's the point of immunity when I'm just gonna get stripped, right? Why should I put immunity if it's just gonna get stripped by a Broman or a Falconeer Clurry on the Lilius? Like, why would I want to do that? Well, when you look at units like Broman, inherently control can't win every game. Control relies a lot on RNG, and you having immunity set at the beginning adds an insane layer of RNG that just makes it so you get an extra 50% chance of winning. So when you look at Broman's S3, he does this spell, but if you know about the effectiveness effect resistance system, and I have talked about it in the past, so go watch the video if you're still confused about it. Effectiveness, you always have a 15% chance to miss your debuffs. So if you are relying on your Broman stripping the immunity, that's another check that they have to go through, because there's a 15% chance they won't be able to strip your immunity. So why would you not want a 15% chance, extra chance to beat control? Because it's 15%, if they don't remove the immunity, you win, right? So you have that 15% chance, they have to remove immunity. Then this silence is only 75%, so that's another 25% chance for you to win the fight. Plus, there's just that other 15% chance on top of that if they do land that 75% chance, you can still resist it. So there's so much RNG that it's why control can't function properly, and having immunity is so critical. Same thing with a unit like Falconeer Clurry. You're like, oh, Falconeer Clurry strips. Yes, but she already has to check effect resistance twice. If she misses the 15% chance on the immunity set, these two won't matter, right? So again, an extra 15% chance for you to win, because now let's say you have someone again like Lilius. If they do this 3 on your immunity Lilius, they have to check 15% on the immunity, then they have to check the 15% on the decreased defense, and then again the 15% on the provoke, which it just gives you more odds to win. So that's why having that turn 1 RNG and adding that extra layer RNG is so important in dealing with control. Now, the other aspect of it, why you may want it later in the game, is going to be units like Last Rider Crow, and why Last Rider Crow is so good against control. And because he deals with the damage portion of control teams as well as the consistent debuffs, because most strippers have cooldowns. So if you're able to have immunity set on your ML Crow, and they're relying on Broman, right? So they come in with their Broman, the S3 with Broman. There's a 15% chance they'll miss the immunity strip. And now, because of that, you can now go with your ML Crow, S3, set up immunity, and then the rest of the team can't do anything. Like Dizzy, like Tenebria, and all these other, or even like T-Surin, right? She can't do anything. So setting up immunity is very important, along with having an immunity set to allow you to do it, because of the RNG aspect and how much it allows you to win the game. No unit emphasizes this more than Holiday Youthfiend. That extra layer of RNG that you have with immunity set, that they have to land it, plus the 50% chance they have to miss at the beginning of the turn, just makes it so the odds are in your favor for you to dodge the debuffs and then just cleanse, right? So again, immunity set is very, very important to allow you that critical turn 1. The next one we're going to talk about is going to be the inherent ways to counter control. Now, there's only really 3 that fall into this category, but it's still important that they get their own category because they are that powerful and we need to talk about them. It's going to be Champion Serato, Ambitious Tywin, and F Maya. Those 3 just inherently counter control and what control is trying to do. So the biggest one is going to be your Champion Serato. If you're worried about Cerise, if you're worried about a Tywin, if you're worried about all these different control units ruining your day, build your Champ Z's. Why? He can't be locked down, he can't be stunned, can't be slapped, which means that they can't lock him down. He can't be provoked, but he will always land his hits on the enemy because you can't get decreased hit chance. So what happens if they land a debuff? So Cerise lands a slow debuff. If a Tywin lands a slow debuff. If he lands his provoke. If Basar lands the unable to be buffed. All these different debuffs. Or even the silence from Broman. If it touches Champ C will just counterattack and pass the debuffs onto the opponent. He is Control's worst nightmares. You pair this guy up with an Angelic Montmorency, you win against every control team in the meta. You win against every control team in the meta. That's how the power of Champ C. So inherently, he just counters control, right? And there's someone else who also falls into this category of just straight up just control means nothing to them because they're just essentially immune. And I may have missed one. I don't think I did, but if I did, make sure you write in the comments, hey, you missed this unit that's also inherently like this. But Maya, right, has a chance, 100% chance to dispel 1 debuff and grant increased attack for 2 turns when attacked. This does go up to 100, which means every time they hit her, you remove debuffs, right? That makes it so hard to lock her down because she's just like, oh, let me just take the debuff off. And then she has insane defense because she just inherently gets defense, has an execution, has provoke, and does pretty good freaking damage. So another really good option for control is just F Maya. And the last one that inherently counters control is also going to be Ambitious Tywin. Why? The second he's hit, it's just click, debuff is gone for the whole party. This is one of Broman's worst nightmares because he has to pray he lands Abyssal Crown and pray he lands all these debuffs. And the fact that it's so quick and it's every time he takes a turn, this passive is reset. It makes him inherently extremely powerful against control. These 3 units just essentially make it so it's like, how the heck am I supposed to win the fight if I can't control you? So definitely build 1, if not 2, if not all of them, honestly, because they're all great units. And they just inherently counter control. The last way I will suggest on how to counter control, and this is one I use, but in the future it won't be as powerful, is going to be outspeeding. Now, I already know there's people that can't get speed because they're extremely unlucky, or it's just something that they're not trying to do. They don't like to play around with that. But the other reason why it's not as powerful is because Cerise will be a critical part to control teams in the future. And with the buff to Guiding Light, it makes Cerise unable to be targeted, which means units like Assassin Sid, Assassin Kali, who are typically some of the best outspeeders, or even like F-Litica, not F-Litica, regular Litica, won't be able to stop Cerise, right? So that's one of the things you do have to remember. But on the hindsight, Cerise is amazing for that same concept, and all these other units are as well and still work against Control. So Control inherently is fast, but not fast enough to deal with very like Assassin Sids, right? Bromance and all these different Control units need a lot of freaking stats to work properly. Besides Cerise, of course, she can just be a rocket and she'll work out. So it is very easy to outspeed Control teams. It's actually pretty reliable for the most part, especially because units like Basar are also a little bit slower. Cerise is an amazing option to counter Control teams. You're able to apply the slow and just allows you to cycle out debuffs. The other one that I recommend is also going to be, again, Assassin Sid and Assassin Kali. I personally use Assassin Kali. Why? She can kill the unit outright and stun them, making the unit not be able to take their turn, making that critical control unit not be able to lock you down. And on the hindsight, also going to be Assassin Sid. So it's always still a really good thing to have, and I still suggest everyone to try to get at least one speed contester unit, whether that's Cerise, Assassin Sid, or Akali, or any other unit, right? You could even do Litica or use your Faithless Litica, right? If you have that, to counter control through outspeeding. And I know it's not popular, but it's still a way. I wanted to let you guys know it exists. It's out there. If you outspeed Control, there's not a lot they can do, because then they don't get to set up their debuffs, and then you just win, right? So all these methods together will give you very successful fights. That is all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you guys never lose to Control again and are ready for Cerise and Sage Ball and Pearl Horizon and all these Control units that exist out there. Build your Chimsies, build your Amomos, build your Rays, build your Elenas, build your Liliuses. Control is coming, but you will be ready for it. And that's all I got for you guys today. I will see y'all next time. Peace. And there should be clips at the end of the video, unless I didn't get around to it. But peace.
Spreading everywhere, I feel we're running out of air. Someone save me, set me free. This love was cursed long ago, I never had the chance to grow. Someone save